Greetings and welcome to episode 5 of Produced by Nostalgia, a podcast where we reminisce about the good old days by discussing the early 21st century media that basically raised us. Coming at you from two different locations are your prestigious and highly decorated hosts, Jedi and
MK.
Today we're coming at you with an episode dedicated to educational television. In part 1, we're going to discuss educational children's television and how it came to be. We're also most likely going to name a bunch of shows from our childhoods that we remember as our first teachers. In part 2, we're going to get a little bit into what educational children's content looks like today, because honestly, it seems like it's pretty different from the TV shows that we used to endlessly zone out in front of. With that said, let's get this class in session.
Woo-ho, period.
Let's go!
Okay, Jedi, I know you haven't really been keeping up with the news today, but okay, so we already know Toy Story 5 is coming out, right?
Yeah. Wait, when was that supposed to come out? I feel like they announced it years ago.
I think it's coming out next year.
Okay.
Maybe in the top of middle of next year, but did you also hear there is a Victorious reboot that is starting?
Actually, yes. I saw a post on social media from Daniela Monet, the actress who played Trina. I saw her on set, and I think I just assumed, oh, they're making a reboot, because what show isn't being rebooted at this point?
At this point, I must say, very odd that they decide to reboot it, given everything that we know now. For reference, with the what was it called? Behind Closed Doors? Oh, Quiet on Set.
Quiet on Set.
Which, is like the documentary of what the giving into the nitty gritty and dirty of the Nickelodeon shows, specifically produced by Dan Snyder. So it's like, well, why would y'all bring that back up?
Yeah, now that I think about it, the iCarly reboot came out before all of that was revealed. And I think that's still at the top of the mind in the culture. Didn't it come out maybe I don't know, 2-3 years ago? I would have to look it up because I haven't seen it, but I know that we, as Gen Zers, know that things were going down, and a lot of the writing and the child acting was really exploitative, really weird. They were making them do inappropriate things under the guise of innocence. I don't think this is a good idea.
I don't either. I mean, hey, glad people got checks, glad people got jobs, because Helen, that was originally in Drake and Josh, and then went over to Victorious playing the same character. She, is going to be the principal there, and so they highlighted that. But that was a very, very noted thing to do. What's else in the media that I also want to highlight? Super Mario Galaxy has a release date now, and it's coming April 3rd.
Super Mario Galaxy.
Yes,
okay.
The movie. Super Mario the movie.
There's a movie coming out. I thought you were talking about another video game.
No. Sorry. So, Super Mario Brothers, they had their movie. I believe it was when was it? Was it 2023? I think it was 2023.
The one with Chris Pratt, right?
Yeah. Oh, God, I forgot he was in that. Yeah, the one with Chris Pratt.
See, I love the fact that they chose one of the worst Chris's to be the main actor for Mario, of all people. They couldn't even find an Italian guy.
Yeah, I don't know. What a character. Again, I think they should actually went for someone who has character acting voices, experience, but that's me. But yeah, Super Mario Galaxy, that's coming out April 3rd. I'm excited about that because I gotta see my boy Yoshi. And what else is coming up? Mortal Kombat 2 has a date for May 8th. The Mandalorian and Gyro, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong, but that's coming out May 22nd. And like I said, Toy Story 5, that's coming out June 19th. Supergirl is also set to release, and that is the sequel to Superman, James Gunn's version that came out, I believe, earlier this year.
Yeah, it was
earlier this year. Yeah,
I think it was summertime.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I saw that it got mixed reviews. Some people really loved it. Some people were like, "This isn't his best work." I know people were like, "Why did they make Superman woke?" And he literally was talking about being kind to people living in war-torn countries. But you know what?
He's literally an alien. Superman has always been, which is, sorry for this small tangent, but superheroes has always been a talk about political views and social constructs and everything. It's always been like that. X-Men is built on that. Teen Titans is built on that. Batman, yes, he comes from a rich family, but it also talked about the crime and everything. It was always talked about social cues. That's why The Boys is doing so good. That's why Invincibles is doing so popular, because those superheroes took that and then applied the lines to the real world. And has Marvel glorified it? Yes, but one of the top, in my opinion, one of the top Marvel movies is when they decided to are we going to join the government and have them go through the process, or are we gonna like be our own entity and just operate in the superhero? And that's the civil.
You're talking about Civil War, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, it's always been like that. So to be like, oh, why are these movies woke? It's always been about talking about like the political state of the world right now. Like, they've always been under Jaden Smith. I don't know what everyone's talking about.
What are we talking about? I have realized that people tend to turn their brains off when they're consuming media, and we're currently in a recession of critical thinking because most media is political in nature. That's the way it is, because how else are we going to model these worlds after our own if not to bring up the politics of them and like question government and question how we treat people? I mean, I feel like anything where there are different factions of thought and there are people, fighting against a higher power, that's like politics at the barest, like, minimum. I never understood people who are like, they're making all this stuff woke. And by the way, woke is just a buzzword at this point, because woke in its originality was just supposed to mean you are aware of the structures in place that like oppress people. It isn't just supposed to be a buzzword that means any sort of human empathy, which is kind of what it feels like right now. I am not surprised that there are people out there who are like, why is everything so woke now? Why is Superman preaching to me? When really it's just them having never actually engaged with the text in good faith. Because, again, like you said, Superman is an alien. Technically, he's an illegal alien. He came in without them papers. Like,
he came in without them papers. Like, so what are you guys talking about? Yeah, it was always just a frustrating thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. It's just ludicrous for people to be like, why are they trying to feed me this agenda? And it's like, the agenda to be kind to others?
God forbid we go for the golden rule, which is be nice to everyone. Oh no.
Treat people the way that you would want to be treated. Dang, I guess I'm just a social justice warrior.
Like, oh no.
But anyway, there are a lot of movies coming out.
Yes, because I also wanted to know that, and this is a big OG for mine, Narnia, the Magician's Nephew, is coming out. I fucking love the Narnia movies. You know, the Narnia, The Lion, and the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, I definitely know Narnia. I just didn't know there was another movie coming out.
Oh, Honey Sweet Child. There's like 3 movies already out. I think it's Narnia 1. I'm pretty sure Narnia 2. Because then with each one, it focused on each kid. So we were supposed to highlight the younger 2.
I did not realize that. I've seen 2 out of the 3 Narnia films.
Yeah, so we were supposed to highlight each kid, and then there was a point of just like, okay, well, I forget the elder kid's name, but those 2, it was like they already got their spiel. I guess they're going out to college or whatever. Cool, and now they transition because then I think their cousin came to visit, and that was like a part of it. So I think that's what happened. Pretty sure that's what happened in like the 3rd one. That their cousin came to visit. He's like, "What is this world?" And I was like, "Well, you're welcome here too." At the end of it, so it was supposed to, start on that. So the Magician's Nephew, I'm like, I love Narnia. Of course, it has like Christian backgrounds and stuff and beliefs that goes with it, but I think it plays very well into it. It reminds me of like the Prince of Egypt of all things, like very heavy in like Christian community and ideologies. And, very much still a good movie. It doesn't make it feel like a quote unquote religious movie.
Yeah, it's a really good allegory for a lot of biblical stories and ideas and themes. I feel like anybody could watch it, but just some people will know where these ideas are coming from. I remember I used to have a book with all of the Narnia books in it, and when I tell you that I never opened that thing even once, I really thought I was going to read the whole thing front to back. Nope, I could not do it. Same with the Bible. I just... Something about those big books, they're very intimidating. But for the Narnia films, I remember really loving the first one. I never saw Prince Caspian. That was the second one. But I did see Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And when I tell you, I was so confused because I didn't see this. Like, I don't know why we decided to watch. We watched it in theaters. I don't know why we decided to watch the 3rd film in theaters when we hadn't seen Prince Caspian. But, it was still a fun time. It has all these fantastical elements. It's very Lord of the Rings-esque. Like, it's a good time. I just was missing so much context.
Yeah, no. But that's what's been going on in nostalgia news is what I like to call it. So I thought I would share that. With that, do you want to start getting into the episode?
Yeah, let's fucking go.
Oh, well, as always, let's start with our weekly unwanted.
We gotta make a little theme song for that or something.
Yeah,
give it a little musical jingle.
Ba, 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 ba.
All right, shall I start?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, for my weekly unwanteds, this is like a double-edged sword because on one hand, I started a new job. Yay!
Woohoo!
So that was a wanted, but the unwanted part is the fact that I have been job searching for a couple of months now, so I am not used to that 9 to 6 grind anymore. When I finished up my week, I legitimately like passed out. I got into bed and I was out. I was like, "Oh God, my body is shutting down. I am not used to sitting in front of a screen all day, being in multiple meetings. There was a day where I had meetings at least for 4 hours straight because meetings had run over. And so that was a shock to my system. I am 100% appreciative and grateful and absolutely stoked to be working again. And I also got a bump up. So I got a bit of a promotion, which is nice. So that's all fine and dandy, but like
Mm-hmm.
just the having to work for hours on end after not working for a couple months, that really did a number on me. Your girl was not okay after that. I needed to take a whole day to recover to be like, wow, this is me. I'm existing in my body. Let me look at the sun. Let me go outside. Let me make sure to eat and sleep and not just be like hunchback over my computer for several hours at a time.
Yeah. No, totally will. It's one of those parts that's like, wow, you missed the break, but then also you got to get the grind of like having a job because, unfortunately that's things of today, but it's also like, damn, I guess I do got to do this. Wait a minute. I get like an hour just for lunch. Oh, wait, I have to like recompress. Oh, damn, who got to check these notes? Oh, wait, fuck me. So, yeah, no, I can imagine.
They started me out from day one. I was taking notes in meetings. I did not know what they were talking about for at least like 25% of the meeting, but I was taking those notes. I was taking those notes as I do.
Yeah,
I'm also very glad to still be in the animation industry because the industry, she's not doing great. There are a lot of people who are out of work, which I feel like is a job market thing in general. Again, very grateful to have been lucky enough to found a job and I am glad to be working. I like my job so far. But damn, I'm gonna
but
miss
damn,
sleeping in.
no, for sure, for sure, for real. No, that's real. I know for me to go into like my weekend winter, but it also like kind of piggyback off of your topic. I went to Lightbox this weekend, so that was very
Nice.
fun. It was mostly like a networking situation, seeing some friends. For those of you who don't know, Lightbox is a kind of a. I was talking to someone. It's kind of like a convention center. It kind of is like a network event, but then also like people coming in cosplay, but it's also like people coming in business suits. So it's like, what's this vibe? Because it's very new.
A professional convention, I guess.
It just like it opened maybe like it's like 4 years old now. I think or maybe even five. Like I think the first years was right before the pandemic, and then they tried to go virtual, and so it was always like a whole thing and stuff. But I will say, it was a fun time. Again, this is where industry folks, like Netflix, Sony, who like they all come and they meet with recruiters and just talk about like the process there. I was working the booth for my studio, so it was very fun, very seeing that. But I was like, "Whoo, man!" One thing about job searching is also networking and that process there. And then when you're on the other side of networking with other people, you realize like, wow, there is a lot of like, okay, I want to do this. Like, how's this? Like talking to other people about this, and, giving themselves a little bit like an elevator pitch. But then
Hmm.
also trying to, stay connected and make genuine connections with folks in the industry and just like understand where everyone's coming from. So it's a very interesting thing to see. I think the unwanted of it all is um, it is probably also kind of like the industry and just like how much stuff is there. Lightbox is for sure fun in that sense, but it is very much like okay, I gotta work, I gotta do this, I gotta like jump over here, I gotta like keep in touch with other people.
Isn't there also an artist alley at Lightbox? Like artists sell their stuff too.
Yeah, and I will. Ooh, child, I spend a brick on that shit. Like I'm talking about,
Hmm.
I spent bands on bands on bands because again, it's talking out artists. Be like, oh, I love your stuff. Be like, oh, I'm gonna take this sticker. Oh, I'm gonna take this little card. Oh, I'm gonna take this. So it's really cool just to see.
I'm sad to have missed it. I've never attended a Lightbox, and I've been in the industry now for almost 4 years. It's a bit unfortunate, but I have to put it on my calendar for next year. I would have definitely had to have probably been at Lightbox if I wanted to really, hit pedal to the metal and get more of that networking done.
Mhm, mhm.
Ugh, networking is exhausting, but it's also really rewarding.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So love a little bit. But all right, that was the weekly unwanted shesh. So man, what a week.
Every week is a week.
Every week is a motherfucking week. It's one thing after the motherfucking other. Oh, that was a lot of me cussing. I'm gonna believe that. I don't know what that was. Hey, little cut too. All right. With that being said, I think we should get into the episode, which I'm super excited for. Jenna, do you wanna go ahead and start us off a little bit?
All right. So for this episode, I really wanted to get into educational television because, as I've mentioned several times on this podcast up until this point, I was a little bit restricted on the shows I was allowed to watch growing up. So a lot of my early childhood was spent watching TV that is meant to teach you things and get you ready for like kindergarten, give you a love for learning, reading, imagining things, music. And not to bring down the energy, but earlier this year, PBS, NPR, and some local stations were defunded by Congress, and I was
Oh,
reminded of that.
boo
We
Congress.
not boo Congress, but yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, Congress, they voted to defund these stations for various reasons. I don't know, to allocate funds or whatever. Taxpayers didn't want to be paying for these stations that are meant to give the local news and provide programming, especially for PBS. They provide programming for children that is very helpful in their early development. And honestly, after my research, I did find out that most likely PBS and NPR are going to be fine. So PBS is the Public Broadcasting Network, and NPR, I think, is the National Public Radio. So they will
Yes.
most likely be fine. They did take a bit of a hit, but the way that it works for federal funding. So Congress gets that funding, sends it to the CPB. Hold on. That is the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So the funds are sent there. That's where the federal funds are. And then they're allocated to NPR, PBS, and then local stations across the country. So NPR and PBS, they actually get a lower percentage of their funding from there. A lot of their funding comes from generous donors, viewers, people who want to see these stations, robust and continue and go on. So even though they are losing a bit of their funding, most likely they'll be able to bounce back, and possibly because people know that they have lost their federal funding, they might start to donate more. The stations that are really going to suffer are local stations, which is not good. In the United States, there are places where it's really hard to get news. They're just news deserts. And these local stations, they not only give the news, but they're also very helpful when there are natural disasters. So that's like not great. Hopefully they'll be able to get their information out some other way. Maybe they'll be able to find their own funding, but really it's not looking too great for them. So hopefully things can turn around. Maybe that funding will be reinstated, but you never know. It's just one of those times. But just to sum all of this up, this was at the top of my mind when I pitched this episode, and it made me really think about what PBS meant to me as a kid, because again, I didn't watch a lot of TV outside of educational TV. And looking back, I really feel privileged that I was able to get some of my early education before kindergarten on TV. It was very engaging. It was, a space for me to kind of explore, and also I guess it's kind of where my appreciation for animation also started, because they had all these great animated shows. They also had live action shows that were pretty good, giving a little bit of history of preschool / educational television. So before the 90s, kids TV was kind of a free for all. Like, there weren't really any regulations in place.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of just putting out what they put out. I think there were some educational TV shows, but it wasn't like their main purpose. Like, no channel was really dedicated fully to educating kids. And some of these early TV shows were like from the perspective of preschoolers, and there would be a teacher. It was basically just like a classroom, but on television, which is, there's a use for it, but I think it isn't as engaging and it isn't as fun, and it wasn't as well researched. It wasn't until Sesame Street came on the scene in 1960. Sesame Street came about in 1969, and I think it was a response to parents advocating for children's television to be researched, because at that point, I think TV became a household thing in like the 50s, and even from the beginning, parents were like, I don't know if TV is good for my kids, like what's happening to them when they're on the screens, like if it's good for them, should I be trying to monitor what they're watching, time limits, things like that. These were all things that weren't regulated yet, but parents were still concerned about. So they would lobby in order to, get these regulations in place. But we didn't see any regulations really being put into action until the FCC implemented the Children's Television Act in 1991. That is when they required that there needs to be educational programming within a channel, at least 3 hours of it, and they need to report what exactly they're showing to children. Even though Sesame Street came out in 1969, it wasn't until 1991, 1992 that they were like, we actually should take advantage of this media and make sure to prepare kids for, the long educational journey ahead of them. So that's all the serious, boring stuff out of the way, which actually for me is not boring, but that's kind of the history of educational TV. And from there, that's when we started to see a boom of TV channels dedicated to preschoolers. I mean, educational TV kind of gets lumped in with preschool TV, but there are educational TV shows for older kids.
There are educational TV shows for older kids. And I believe that while it's lumped in, I think that almost as working on a few preschool shows myself, it's always a conversation in the mind, even if that wasn't the full, what's the word? That's not what we came to do initially. That's not the premise of it. Teaching kids stuff has always been a big thing in general. I know a couple of channels to mention is Nick Jr., Noggin, Playhouse Disney, was turned into Disney Junior. I know you mentioned Ready, Set, Learn, which I have never heard of this as well, which we could get more into later. But I know for me, educational preschool TV has led a short and long-term school performance. High schools, for example, who watch educational preschools use books more often, showed higher academic self-esteem, and placed a higher level on academic performance. It also strengthens positive attitudes leaning towards learning, such as confidence, test anxiety, and motivation to learn. Shout out to one of my department's previous intern, Brett Wolf, who gave me the information because he also used to be a teacher and also used to work with kids and just learning about preschool programming. And he did a presentation on that, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, but there were a lot of shows that really come to mind when I think. And Jedi, I want to ask you, what was your favorite shows growing up, preschool?
My favorite preschool TV shows, I'm going to say preschool / educational. I think one of them was Between the Lions. So Between the Lions was
my shit.
My shit, bro. That show was so good. I remember it so fondly. So Between the Lions was a show on PBS Kids, featured a family of lions who I believe they lived in a library or they just frequented it regularly, but it would teach you reading. It would teach you, literature. It would go into different types of books. You would learn how to sound out words, vowels, consonants, all the whole mishmash of how to read a book. And it was
which the kids need today, to be
honestly, looking at kids today, I'm like, damn, we gotta get Between the Lions back on air. It was a show that was done with puppets. The lions were all puppets. It did feature human kids, if I remember correctly. They also had different segments for different learning.
They also had celebrities come in appearance. Brian McKnight, which, no him, but he's a 90s singer. He was there, doing a snippet with him. So they had all the stops and stuff, which shout out to, early childhood development shows would lean a lot on that. I love My Favorite Thing, even after this day, Sesame Street would bring on different people. They brought on Usher, they brought on SZA.
Mm-hmm.
They just brought even sometimes they bring on a couple of politicians, which gets a little, but it goes into a good light. I love when early childhood development shows do that.
Definitely. I remember on Between the Lines, they had this one segment about this guy who would hang off a cliff, and I think his name was Cliffhanger. So they would also teach you about pneumatic devices like, the red herring or the cliffhanger or foreshadowing. And it was kind of high-level stuff looking back at it now, but it just gave me this basis for wanting to read. I really loved reading because of this show. As soon as I got into kindergarten, I remember in kindergarten, first grade, I would be at the library as much as I possibly could because I wanted to be just like the lions and, have all this fun. How does the theme song go? Behold the tail behind the door. Come explorers, come in. It was such a great show. And it really made reading seem like this magical, imaginative thing. And I really wish kids felt the same these days. I wish that there was more of an emphasis put on reading because you're going to be reading your entire life. Not always the fun, imaginative books that you see in these TV shows, but like it is important to have a love for reading.
Well, going off of that, I want to talk about what you talked about before, in a previous conversation offline, but there are types of educational shows too as well. So we
Mm-hmm.
mentioned reading and stuff, which that like falls into like the reading, writing, language arts type of situation. So it's funny that you mentioned Between the Lines because other shows like that would be Super Right, Reading Rainbow, and the Electric Company and Word Girl is would usually like fall into that. There's also shows specifically that lies on science, which personally, now that I'm thinking about it, was kind of my jam back in the day because I love the Magic School Bus. I love Go Diego Go, Cyber Chase, Wildcrats, and even just like different shows that we just had to focus on that. Specifically for me. Now, what's one of my jams again is the Magic School Bus, where everyone
Mm-hmm.
knows Miss Frizzle and her band of like I forgot what grade were in. No, but I think
I
they
think
were
they were
middle.
probably, I
Was it
wanted to
like
say fourth grade.
I
Let
want
me
to say
look this
fourth
up.
grade?
You keep
Yeah,
talking. I'm going to look
yeah.
it up.
Let's fact check it real quick because I think that they had to be around the age of 10. They were through there, and so whenever like someone has a question about something, I'm like, what should we do? What will we do with this, Miss Frizzle? And they'd be like, oh, good question. And she shrinks them down to wherever, and maybe they're going like into a flower, or into somebody's or like organ system or something, or maybe they're flying around and being bees for a day. So that was always like really cool. Oh my gosh, how did the theme song go?
The only part of the theme song I remember is, please let this be a normal field trip with a
The
frizz?
Frizz?
No
No
way!
way! The Magic School, but yeah, okay, no, I got it. But that's another thing with a preschool show. The theme song got to hit. Because you know, as children, our attention span out of it, and their theme songs always hit. I love that. But that was the science-based shows. We also talk about language art shows, but then there are language learning shows like Dora the Explorer, Nihai Kai Lan, which focus on teaching you about like different languages. Dora specifically with Spanish, Nihai Kai Lan with specifically Chinese.
Yes, Chinese.
Okay, I want to make sure I got that right.
I
If
feel
if
like,
I didn't, we was gonna cut
oh,
that.
LOL. Our first cancellation.
Oh my gosh, tee.
I actually think a really fun thing about those language learning shows is also that they would give you a glimpse into the cultures that you were learning the languages from.
Yeah.
Okay, this might be an assumption, but I assume that Dora is like Mexican in nature, at least like Latino.
Yeah.
And so you would, learn about their foods and the relationship between like the parents and the kids and kind of like the celebrations they'd have. I think that's where I first learned about quinceañeras
Mm-hmm.
and how they celebrate Christmas. I remember one of the Christmas episodes, they sang the song about Noche Buena. So you got to learn so much about the cultures. And for Ni Hao Kai Lan, of course, since it was in Chinese or that you were learning Chinese, you got to, learn some of the foods, see how they interacted, some of the lore. I think they talked a little bit about like the zodiac, like, year of the rabbit, year of the dragon. Like they were teaching you the language, but they were also exposing you to this whole new culture, which
Mm-hmm.
I thought was pretty awesome.
Yes, no, that was always like really cool, man. Like we used to be a society, but then there were also shows that specifically about social skills and problem solving. One of my favorite shows is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I believe that was his most on syndication when I was growing up, but it was like very beautiful. I told you about this before.
Yeah.
But Mr. Rogers, there was an episode, and I'm forgetting the man's name. I really should fix that, like who. But this is around the time with like the racial issues and stuff, and it was like, oh, black people can't like swim like with the white people because they're there or whatever. Mr. Rogers got like a little kiddie pool, and he invited like his friend, I believe the mailman, to sit with him and just like talk. And so they both put their feet in the water and just had discussion, and that was a very like big thing because like see like we are not much different. Like we can all swim in the same water type of situation. So that was like really cool to see. That was just embedded in my head. But there's other private solving shows like Blue's Clues. I would categorize like Arthur and Madeline and Imagination Movers in the same thing. Barney and Friends is obviously like the OG that people usually go because love that, and it talks about caring, as we talked about earlier. Like, God forbid people want to
Care
care.
about each other, caring and sharing. And I would like to mention that a lot of these social skill shows also had an underlying current of, other educational topics. So maybe they would also talk about reading or science. It would just kind of be embedded in, but the like overarching theme would be learning how to be a member of society.
Which, again, I think we need more of. Those were
honestly.
just some really, really good shows.
Before we move on completely, your story about Mr. Rogers also reminded me of In Sesame Street. So one of the core tenets of their show is that the neighborhood should reflect a neighborhood that you as a kid could possibly live in. So they had people of color in their shows, which I guess this fact is not as fun. 1970, Mississippi banned Sesame Street because they were like,
What?
this is a little too controversial for our state. That ban only lasted 22 days. It did not even last a month
That's funny.
because the uproar was so great. They were like, what do you mean you've canceled Sesame Street? And so it just goes to show shows like these, they are really important not only for the kids, but for us as a greater society because they reflect the world that we kind of want to live in, how we should be treating people, what people we want to see in our neighborhoods, and how all of us should be afforded this human dignity. At the end of the day, we're all just living.
Yeah. And can I also note how a lot, now I'm thinking about this and looking at the list of shows that we had, like, a lot of people's schools are very progressive nowadays. Well, nowadays, but even like, you know, back then, the Sesame Street, they featured this, oh my gosh, it's so cute, this black puppet girl, and there's a song with like her and her, I believe it's an aunt, and she's washing her hair. And so it talks about like putting on your bonnet and like doing a wash and go day. And I'm like, oh, this is so cute. And the fact that they do stuff now to this day is like beautiful. They even, a couple of shows mentioned, oh my gosh, what's it called? It's like same-sex parents and stuff. So it was like, that was a beautiful thing to see. And just like different families, like families that's coming from divorce, families that's coming like even like together. Yeah.
Talking about same-sex, remember when Mr. Ratburn from Arthur came out?
Yeah.
So Mr. Ratburn was the teacher character in Arthur, and I think I never saw the episode because I think it's a modern episode where he has a partner who is also a man, but it's like, yeah, this happened, and there was, of course, an uproar, but also it shows that maybe there's a reason why Congress wanted to cut the funding to PBS. I don't know. Seems kind of sus. Maybe we were making out there. Maybe the kids are getting too woke, as in they're getting a little too empathetic. But, you know, whatever.
No, whatever.
But not whatever.
Right. No, who am I to judge? But I am judging Congress. So always. But yeah, those shows specifically, I was like, man, they really like highlighted, they really embedded like things in my brain to let me know, like, one, how I should treat people, and two, how I should go about the world, and three, just like my learning abilities and how I problem solve and how I think about things. To talk about what are shows where you were not allowed to watch
on PBS or educational in general?
Education in general.
I don't think so. I feel like just the educationalness of it was enough. I know that sometimes for religious household, they have problems with like science and evolution and things like that. But I think in my household, my mom wasn't watching so closely. I mean, not to speak on her beliefs or anything, but science-wise, I was allowed to kind of just free-for-all, like, if this is educational, this is good to watch. As long as you're learning, like, you can do what you must. Learn all that you can in order to prepare yourself for the real world out there, which I have to say I really appreciate. I mean, at the time I was like, why am I only allowed to watch PBS? I want to watch like freaking Nickelodeon. I want to watch SpongeBob, which I was allowed to watch, but I had to, you know, get in my education first, which education, like I said before, it's a really great privilege to be able to learn, and especially to learn early, because once you're in school, you kind of hit the ground running or you fall behind.
Yes.
And it's really hard when you've fallen behind. And I am of the thought that not everybody is, you know, built for our school system. Our school system doesn't really cater to individuals and their needs. And some people excel and others don't, which I don't think should be something that should set them back. But at the same time, recognizing the world we live in, getting that foot up at the beginning, especially as a Black girl, meant the world. It kind of prepared me for the long journey ahead until, you know, grade school ended, and then high school, college. Like, it kind of set the motions and work for me to, you know, have a successful educational career. I mean, what are your thoughts? Given the fact that, you know, we grew up on these shows, why are they so important to you?
Yeah, they're so important to me because, like I said earlier, they really helped me with like problem solving. It also made me feel seen in a lot of it. Of course, you know, growing up, there wasn't a lot of people of color, honestly, like on the screen, but I still felt seen. But I could feel people of color behind the scenes. You get what I'm saying? Because there's no way in my mind that like Between the Lions wasn't executive produced or somebody wasn't in the back. That's the Black person. You get what I'm saying? Not with that theme song.
Not with that theme song. Also, are we going to say that the Lions themselves might have been Black?
For sure. For sure. First
Looking
of
at
all,
their hairstyles and their character designs, sometimes I wondered. And I think their names, I don't remember all their names, but I know one of them was named Leona.
Yeah. Black. This is not even a conversation. First of all, in a Black household loves to make sure their kid can read, like straight off the jump, loves to make sure they're like highly educated. Like it's that, like, I know there's like tiger moms, quote unquote, for like the Asian community, but I'm like, oh, a Black mama and a Black daddy would love to also be like, no, you are going to read every single aspect. My first real big viewing was Roots, of course. They love the educational stuff, but that like really like helped me. It helped me bend it into myself there's a lot of fun shows I also wanted to know that really like shaped my personality. One, the Doodle Bops.
The Doodle Bops. Yeah.
So I take the bus to work, and every time I literally have like an alarm that says, let's get on the bus. And that was the Doodle Bops theme song. And I was like,
yes,
like, I'm ready to go. And then stuff like that was like the Wiggles. Also, there was concerts. I don't know if you remember this, but there were like concerts for the Wiggles, the Doodle Bops, Fresh Beat Band. All that.
Yeah.
Yo Gabba Gabba.
They all had these in-person experiences, which I never went to. One of my greatest regrets. But they really had the kids up out of their seats.
Yeah.
I imagine they were so much fun to attend.
For sure. And I'm like, and there was a trend that was like, my first concert. And people would post like, the Wiggles. And I'm like, yes, that's right. They did have like a whole tour and everything. It used to be like a huge, huge thing. I just loved like listening to their music and diving into that, but those shows like really helped me. There were
a lot of shows that kind of had music as their center, so they didn't just educate you on like reading and math and whatever, but they also taught kids the appreciation for the arts, especially music.
Yeah. Well, you know what's that too? I read somewhere that music helps with learning. Like a lot of people listen to music while they work. What my mom used to do is every time she would have us like teach a phone number, teach our address when we were younger, she would do it in song. So it's easier to remember because a lot of people pick up the tone and stuff. So that makes sense, especially when you're like teaching something. Then you go, because everyone knows how to tie their shoe because it's SpongeBob, not a preschool show.
You want to learn how to tie your shoes? It's a very easy thing to do.
Exactly. You loop and pull.
I feel like a sleeper agent that just got activated.
Exactly. So it's mostly geared to a song. So that's why music is also a big essential when it comes to preschool breakdown.
Another show. Okay, this one's not a preschool. This was definitely for older audiences, but Hip Hop Harry, that was my jam. I love that show.
I only know Hip Hop Harry in clips. I don't think I actually sat down and watched a Hip Hop Harry episode.
Let me explain to everyone what Hip Hop Harry was. Hip Hop Harry was this show that I guess was a love letter to hip hop music. So Harry, I think he was a hamster. He was a dude dressed in a hamster suit, and he would teach lessons in the hip hop style. I don't think I'm doing good. I'm not doing a good job of explaining this. They had this room.
He was a bear this whole time.
I think he's a hamster. If he's a bear, oh my god, I hope Hip Hop Harry doesn't have shooters who are about to come after me, because I always thought he was a giant hamster, because H. Anyway, but so he would teach kids, and there would be a bunch of child actors, well, I guess child performers. These kids knew how to dance, so they would have these lessons, usually about, maybe reading, or social skills or whatever, but it would be taught through hip hop. And so at the end, they would have a segment where they all go around in a circle and they show off their moves, and they would be like, go, 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 Harry. Go, Harry. As someone who loves to dance, that show, it was like the perfect amalgamation of everything I love. Reading, hip hop. I was gonna say people in suits, but actually most of the shows featuring people in suits skeeved me out. I didn't like Teletubbies. Barney was on thin ice, and actually I've lost another one. I probably blocked it out of my memory. Most of those shows were not good for me, but I was an older kid watching Hip Hop Harry, so I wasn't as skeeved out.
Okay. No, I looked it up. Harry is in fact a bear.
Oh my god. So I'm a fake fan, everyone.
No, but I can see why you make sense, because alliteration, like Harry the hamster, I was gonna run with you, but then I was like, no, I think he's a bear, but.
Love to learn. I love to learn. I love to learn. I love to learn. Gosh, when we were discussing this episode, I dropped one of the beats from the show, and I'm pretty sure I blew MK away with the fact that I knew every single word and I was still hyped singing it. What did you say that I had watched that like literally yesterday? It's been a while since I've watched those shows, but again, the music, it hits you deep in your mind. It becomes a part of you.
It does. Like you said, there are sleeper agent episodes of shows, so I'm like, I forgot that I knew this. But I'm singing word for word, bar for bar.
Do we have any other shows that we want to discuss? I feel like we hit a lot of them. And I guess more of the fun kind of observational shows. Right off the top of my head, I really liked
Oswald was good. Oswald was a good show. Yeah, it was very cute.
It was a very cute, comforting show. I guess you could probably argue that it was one of those social skill shows because it was about this octopus who lived in this community, and he would go around with his little wiener dog, and they would, help out their neighbors, live life, do errands, but just kind of. I feel like it was a show about community and like taking care of your community. I mean, this is me trying to reach back my memories. This was like early childhood, but I remember really liking how comfortable it was watching Oswald.
Yeah, Oswald.
How about you?
Another one for mine, just for deep back in the Maggie and the Ferocious Beast was really good. It was very soft, very like that. And Madeline, I don't know what about it, but I was very much like, oh, this is soft, this is cute, this is palatable, and I was like, yes, I love stuff like this. So it was very fun. I love shows like that.
We're going to get into it in our second part, but I feel like these comfortable, soft shows are becoming lost media. These shows where, not a lot is happening. We're kind of just, watching people or creatures or animals live their lives and, follow them along their little adventures. I feel like shows like that we're losing out on a bit, but I think that there should be a place for these kind of not in your face, like we're learning right now type of shows, but these shows where you get to kind of live life and experience how good life can be in just the simplest moments. I want to bring more shows like that back, but I don't know, maybe execs would argue that kids' attention spans are shrinking and they won't get any viewership. But who knows? You never know what the kids will actually glomp onto.
You never know. Yes, I think we can actually get more into our second part, and that is a great transition.
Let's go
right here.
Yeah. All right.
Hello. We are back after our break. So we're talking about, again, preschool shows, nostalgia, produced by nostalgia. And we're talking about like the preschool shows that we go up with. So we took a break, but then we also realized on the break more information with it because we're just a bunch of pride people who likes to research.
Yeah.
Because we were going back and forth and we were like, wait a minute, did Cartoon Network have a block? Because Disney had like Playhouse Disney, Disney Junior, and Nickelodeon had Noggin, which is coming to Nick Jr. and stuff. And we were going back and forth. It was like, well, I don't know if Cartoon Network had a channel block. Jedi, do you want to take it here and discover what you found?
Yes. In my research, I discovered that there was a block called Cartoonito. I think it's relatively modern, so it wouldn't be nostalgic to us, but that was a block dedicated to preschool / educational television. And I would also like to mention that the FCC ruled in the Children Television Act that channels needed 3 hours a week of educational developmental type TV shows. So when we were talking about Cartoon Network, because we were like, how did they possibly, what's the word? Adhere to this rule if we can't think of any of shows from them that were like strictly educational / preschool in nature. And I think, Michaela, you saw that, what is it, Care Bears was on there?
Yeah, so, because I looked it up and I was like, well, how, they couldn't have the block because I don't remember it. But they didn't make a block like, now we're switching over to preschool, or like how they did it, or now we're switching over to the 6-11 block. So that's why in my mind it wasn't in that. But early time in the morning, so I think the time range should maybe like 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., they would show shows like Care Bears. Like, I believe it was like, we'll call it like Unlock the Magic. Cause yes, Care Bears Unlock the Magic. They showed Baby Looney Tunes, which I was like, oh my gosh, I used to love that show.
Yeah.
Can't believe I forgot it. But in my mind, I guess I felt like it was just still in that 6 to 11 range, but it is still technically a preschool show. There were a couple other shows. Peppa Pig was also on this block. And I know that I was like, I remember that being Nickelodeon.
Yeah. Although now thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I'm mixing up pig shows because Nickelodeon also had Olivia. And
yes, that's what, okay.
I feel like there was one other pig show, but now it's leaving my mind. But Olivia, I definitely remember was on Nickelodeon.
Okay, yes, and so that's why I got so Peppa Pig definitely was on Cartoon Network, and that was just of like the preschool stuff. But I think now it wasn't until like later is where they gave it a name, which is Cartoonito.
Yeah. Well, I personally have never watched Cartoonito, but I'm sure that they're doing great things.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of those shows now, it used to come on like way up in the morning. Jessica's Big World is a part of now Cartoon Network. And Bat Wheels, which is...
Whales?
Bat Wheels, which is...
Wheels!
Yes, like like on a car. So, and that is about Batman's... I can't remember. I don't think Batman's vehicle has a name. I think it
The
is just
Batmobile?
Yes. Oh, idiot.
Could you forget?
How could I forget? Oh my gosh, the superhero nation will disperse.
Did his car have a name? The Batmobile?
Batmobile. Oh,
I'm so sorry.
I knew that.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing at you. It's just really funny.
Laughing and pointing. Oh my gosh. Yes, but so it follows the Bat family's vehicles, and is brought to life by the Bat computer, and they have a group called like Bat Wheels, and then like cars like anthropomorphic type. Bat Wheels has a car, the Redbird, which is Robin's like bike that he rides around on. Robin does have a bike, yes.
Yeah, I think I remember from Teen Titans he had a motorcycle kind of bike thing going on.
Yeah, so it was that, and
that what about Batgirls? Does it say what Batgirls was? Is she included? I would assume because it's the Bat family.
Yes, the Bat Wing.
The Bat Wing? Is it like, does it fly or? Okay, so I guess we have more research to do.
Yeah, it's like a moving vehicle and everything. Oh, excuse me. The Batgirl cycle. Yes. Batgirl has a motorcycle.
Okie doke. This is very interesting. I think I have heard of that show, but of course I've never seen any episodes of it. Strangely enough, I actually don't watch a lot of preschool TV these days. Actually, now that I've said that, maybe that isn't strange. You know what?
No, you're a grown woman. You're a grown adult. I don't think...
I'm just trying to say because there's been a bit of a resurgence with like some preschool shows becoming comfort shows for adults, like Bluey. I feel like people love Bluey. I never got on the Bluey train, not because I don't think it's good. It's just that's not where I'm finding my comfort, I guess.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I was just saying grown adult, but then also I do watch a couple of episodes of Bluey as just like a center. Like there's so many stuff that I do watch that has a lot of like crime and back and forth, and even the political state of the world. It's like a big thing. So I was like, okay, well, let me watch something that's like similar now. And Bluey is very like family center. That really like he really helps. I also so to speak. Sometimes I watch Gabby's Dollhouse to be like, let me just put something on in the background. That was very much that. With that being said, I think what does preschool television look like today was where we wanted to also bring up in this section. Man, has it changed? Not dramatically, but it has changed enough. I think there are less shows centered to like the learning about this, and because we like I said, we had stuff that was like talking about problem solving, talking about math, science, just the basic language of that. But I feel like a lot of people tend to think like, well, I feel like it's less educational, but still more social skills.
Yeah,
that has taken the forefront. A lot of popular stuff has gone today, like Miss Rachel. The kids love her.
I feel like she's a modern Mr. Rogers almost, but for
almost
YouTube.
Yes, for sure. My nephews love Blippi. I have my thoughts.
Blippi.
It is a man who basically teaches about trucks.
That's actually kind of cool in theory. I feel like me as a child and me now would have no interest in that, but sounds cool.
Yeah. And Miss Rachel, Blippi, and the other one I was going to mention, Gracie's Corner, even Cocomelon live in the YouTube space. So a lot of kids are watching and just like putting that on. Now I believe Cocomelon's on like Netflix and stuff, so they can go for that. But yeah, a lot of it's like on YouTube. So then they would just put the show on and the kids just are watching it. A couple of shows like Cocomelon, I would say, had like a Pacific, like a Brain What type of situation, which a lot of people like didn't gear it towards, but I think they did better with their programming and just increased it there. So that's one thing to note.
So yeah, YouTube has kind of become a vehicle for children's learning in a way that like TV just isn't anymore. TV still exists and shows are still being developed for television, but you know, they also have to take into consideration streaming. And if YouTube is the most accessible, it just goes to show like wherever people can watch, they will watch. And if
They
the
will
easiest
watch.
thing is probably what they're going to watch it on.
I will say the adults who watch Bluey, they tend to watch it, that I know, they watch it on TikTok, which like they're scrolling and there's like a snippet. Yeah, because the episodes are nothing but maybe like 10 minutes long, maybe even like less than that. A lot of them just watch it on TikTok, so then they just watch like a full episode of Bluey and then just scroll into the other one. Then you have other shows for the YouTube space going back, like Paw Patrol, that they really goodness hated, and a lot of people just watch Paw Patrol on YouTube so much, like that's where they're getting like their media from. Because again, a lot of kids, can't remember, like the password and stuff to the Hulu stuff, but they can just go on YouTube and see it there. So that's even why when you go on YouTube and if it's a kid content show, then they have the comments turned off.
Yeah. I will say, I feel like having YouTube kind of be the main form of like getting media, I feel like it's tricky. I know that they have that feature where you can turn off the comments, but like YouTube, unless you're really paying attention to those child locks and your kids aren't a little bit crafty, like it can lead to not great things. But you could also say the same about television. I mean, there weren't even locks on, there were parental locks on television, but everybody knew how to get rid of those. So it's just one of those like, a new problem, but it's just an old problem in a new font. And I think for us as people who grew up on TV, it hurts a little bit that kids just aren't watching TV anymore, but at least they're getting that educational content from somewhere. And there are people who are trying to make it high quality, good, teach them the kind of things that educational programming used to teach kids. I will say, going back to Miss Rachel, I saw that she did an episode where she had a little girl from Gaza on her channel. Like, I think she was a little 3-year-old. This girl, she had lost her legs, I think, in an airstrike. And so Miss Rachel had her on the show, and it was likened to that moment in Mr. Rogers when he sat in the pool with the black man and they just sat together. So this kind of content is still being made and it's still super important. And it still is very heartwarming to know that people want to live in a world where we care for each other, where we show that, because despite coming from different places, we can just hang out. We can show love to each other. Yeah. And if YouTube has to be the way to do it, I guess we can just go for it.
We got to lace up our YouTube boots and just get the stomping. No, that makes sense. I think even now of what like the preschool television is like looks like today, the YouTube space, the social media space, getting more into that, because even like less commercials that go into things. And I would say preschool is doing fairly well today. There is a Bluey movie that's coming out in 2027. So. And even there are a lot of preschool movies also that are coming to fruition. Paw Patrol had 2 movies coming out. So it was like one of those like, okay, like they're preschool movies. And then even had like talent there. The Gabby's movie is also like coming out. Not also coming out, but it's out. And a lot of people love.
Did it come out this month or last month?
Come out last month.
Yes. So yeah, Gabby's Douglas. Oh my God. So yeah,
Gabby's
Dollhouse.
Gabby Douglas has a preschool show.
The English language is escaping me. Cut this out. Gabby's Dollhouse is having her time. I tried. I really did. Also, something I wanted to highlight is, do you remember a couple years back when Blue's Clues got a new host?
Yes.
So his name was Josh, and he's the host of Blue's Clues and You, I think, is the new iteration of the show. And he's the first Filipino host. And I thought that was really important. I feel like it's really special to see someone, especially a person of color, and especially if you're Filipino, seeing this person helm this franchise that has pretty much been a lot of people's childhoods. And this is exactly what I want to see. I want to see more of this.
I want to see more of it. Yeah. Like, you don't, even to the woke thing, it doesn't have to be this whole, like, big thing. I think just having more people there, because then now, there's a little Filipino person who's, like, get to see the representation, like, on the screen, on their favorite show, Blue's Clues, that teaches about problem solving and everything. And that's where the space should be. Even then, Reading Rainbow is also back, that I also want to know that. So that's really cool. And it has like a new host. Excuse me. The host name is escaping me. And I deeply apologize to the host, but that's exciting. I believe it's also on the YouTube space. So that's really cool because they're utilizing
accessible.
It's accessible. So that's really cool. And there's also been a couple of reboots, honestly, with the preschool. Caillou has made an appearance, which was very shocking to me because I know parents did not want that little bald-headed boy to be teaching their kids anything.
You know what's so funny to me? I never understood the hate that Caillou was getting. Like, people would talk about how their parents hated how annoying he was. And to me, I was
He
like,
was
wasn't he
mean to
4?
Rosie.
He was 4.
He was mean to
He definitely
Rosie.
was mean to Rosie. Rosie, I think she was like a baby, or she was like 1 or 2.
She was just learning to walk. Hey, Rosie's always messing with stuff. Caillou, calm down, player. Like, it's not that serious.
But parents really took it to heart. They're like, you're not allowed to watch Caillou because he's a bad influence. Which, funnily enough, my mom did not have that problem with Caillou. She loved Caillou.
It's sometimes when TV does raise a lot of kids, so I can understand why they're like, no, like, if I can control anything, you're not watching this because you might pick up behavior with it. So it's like, no, cut this off immediately. Yeah. My child would not be watching no Caillou at all.
They probably made the new one better, though. It does look different than the old one. See, I don't want to be a hater, but I just always feel a type of way when I see redesigns of shows that I used to watch. I don't want to get into too much how I feel specifically, but just know it's a jarring experience every time.
Yeah, it's one of those when you grow with something and you're used to seeing it and then you switch over it. Like, no hate to 3D at all, but it's also like, I didn't picture seeing Caillou in 3D, especially because their thing was their watercolor backgrounds, the paintings that was like kind of not finished and it felt like a storybook.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why is this in CG? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Now it's fully rendered.
You know,
we've
so
lost a little bit of that quirkiness.
Exactly. And then
Dora
what was
also had the CG reboot.
Dora?
Yeah. I think that one was maybe like 2 years back. Oh my gosh. Do you think Blue's Clues? I don't think Blue's Clues has. See, now I have to look this up because I don't think they went the CG route, but you never know. I'm actually Blue's Clues and you. Oh my God. It is sort of CG. It's like the painterly style. So I would say in animation, they're kind of going for this like 2D and a half look where it's a CG model, but it has like drawn on elements / like it kind of looks like it's 2D in nature. I kind of like this one because it's not too far off, but it definitely is still different enough where I'm like, yep, that's not my Blue of yesteryears.
Yeah, Blue of yesteryears.
But I still love her. She's still good. Also, I want to mention, I never realized that Blue was a female dog. That blew me away.
Yes.
Magenta, I'm still not sure about, but I think Magenta is also a female dog.
Magenta's also a girl, and so it was legit like, no, they are best friends.
Yeah. I thought that, you know that thing in like animated TV shows where they make like a girl version of a boy?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of those. I thought Magenta was just the girl version of Blues. And then when I found out they were both girls, I was like, female empowerment?
Oh, man? Yes. Do you know Tweety Bird is a boy?
Yes, I think I did know that, but that's something I learned, I think, later on in my childhood. At first, I thought that Tweety was a girl.
Yeah. I'm also clicking, and did you know that there was a puppeted Blue's Clues?
See,
Blue
now
was
that
a puppet.
you say that, I feel like there's a
Blue's
memory.
Room.
I think I do remember this. Oh my God. See, now I'm also looking this up. We have our computers in front of us, so we're legitimately like, when we say we're looking shit up, we're Googling it in the background.
We're Googling immediately.
And yes, this does spark a memory in my mind. And I think it probably lived in the realm of, I don't like puppet shows, so I'm not going to watch this.
I love puppet shows. That is my jam. That's why I love Sesame Street. That's why I love anything but that's why I love Between the Lines.
I had to grow to love puppet shows. There were some exceptions. Like Between the Lines, I think I was cool with. And Sesame Street, I learned to love it. But like, again, Teletubbies to this day, I just
Well, Teletubbies are different. That's possession.
Did you say possession?
Yes, I did. There's something different. They were a
little demonic. I don't know.
Just a little bit. And that and a little vacuum shit that they be no, they look scary.
I feel like the only part of the episodes that I liked was, I think they had these little cakes that they would eat that they would get through like a tube or something. I don't know why I like that. I hated when they had the TV screens on their tummies, not because it freaked me out, but because I was just so bored by the segments. I did not like real, live action TV back in the day. I was strictly like animated or like otherworldly. If this is too real, I'm bored. I don't want to be watching this. And actually, didn't we talk about the spinoff for Arthur, Buster's Postcards? Or that's not. Is that what it was
Buster's
called?
World?
Buster's World. No. Hold on. Buster's Postcards from Buster? Is that what it was called? Postcards from Buster. Yeah, Postcards from Buster. So that was a spin-off of Arthur where Buster, he would like receive. Okay, I actually don't really remember the show because again, I didn't watch it, but I remember it had a lot of live action segments. So I did
Yes.
not like it as much.
Yes. Busters, I actually know the creative who's on this show.
Those
And
connections, y'all.
yep, there is tea there that we can get into later at a later episode. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I really want to do a retrospective on PBS and
for
PBS
sure.
Kids. I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch a lot of PBS, but PBS Kids used to watch a lot of it, and they
Yeah.
have so many shows. And turns out they used to be called PTV before they became PBS Kids. Just another fun fact.
Damn, the more you know.
The more you know.
What was the ending of their saying? Viewers like you.
Thank you. Sleeper action. Sleeper action. Sleeper agents activated.
You could tell
Hold
we
on.
watched.
I need to think about this because I think if I rooted around in my mind, I could probably come up with the whole phrase. Something is possible due to donations from viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like they had a certain way of saying it and they said it the same way every single time. And it just sticks in your mind. It didn't even need like a musical underlying element to it. It just became a rhythm that as a child, it sticks in my memory.
Right? It's very important that it very is embedded just like in my mind, and it's not going anywhere. But yeah, preschool is this preschool kind of division that we grew up is very like a big thing, and even in the ones that kind I was still on the older side, but I still remember like Bubble Guppies, the Paw Patrol, Special Agent also was also like I was leaning onto the older, but it's still better in my mind. This is more so when I grew up with Max and Ruby. Just to mention them more few.
Actually, since you're talking about shows from when you're a little bit older, what are some preschool shows that you think you watched for longer than you should have? Or you were watching them when you probably were no longer in the age range?
See, that's hard because there's a couple of shows I'm like, is this indication that, oh, I know, Sophia the First.
Yes, I think Sophia the First came out in maybe like 2010 or something.
Yeah, so I was a little older, but I also, and you both know, we're both older siblings, so we have younger siblings who just like watch shows, so it tends to just be on the background, so I'm just relatively just aware. But Sophia's the first, especially because she would bring the princesses onto her shows, and there used to be a time where I'm like, okay, I may be about like 15 at this time, but I'm like, I now have to search the Pacific Sophia the First episode with said princess. I must see how they interact.
I was always really interested in how they rendered the princesses because Sophia the First has its own distinct style, but I like the way that they treated the princesses on the show. What they did to them. They kind of incorporated some of their newer aspects because you know how Disney updates the way the princesses look every couple of years for marketing reasons. They kind of incorporated whatever the modern Disney princess looked like at the time, but also put it in the Sophia the First style, which I thought was really cool. And I think I also was probably around like 15 years old being like, yeah, this is some shit right here.
You know, like I like the theme song. She's having fun.
I think I watched the Fresh Beat Band. That one I think I was too old for, but I don't know, something about a good beat, something about dancing on your feet, and they were color coded. It just sparks joy.
You know, they had the live action TV show and they had the animated show.
Yes, I think I maybe saw an episode or two of the animated show. The animated show was definitely like I was an older teen, I think, at that point, so I was not watching it. But I do remember when it came out, I was a little bit excited. I was like, "Ooh, a new banjo!" And Yo Gabba Gabba, I also watched. There's a party in my tummy, so yummy, so yummy.
Wild Kratts, I was older as well, but I was aware of it. Like I said, there was a couple episodes. I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And Sid the Science Kid.
I'm looking for my friends. I'm looking for you. Sid the Science Kid. I watched that a lot. It's because I think I had younger cousins or like kids around me were being babysat, and they would always put Sid the Science Kid. Kids love Sid the Science Kid, and so I also grew to love him.
He's a cool kid. Yeah, I not to out my brother, but I call him Sid the Science Kid because he's relatively really smart and also has locks. So I just call him Sid.
That's so cute, though. I love that.
But yeah, those are a couple of shows that I was like I spooled older for, and there's something about it too on a rewatch because I'm not gonna lie to you. I think before I would watch like the Backyardigans. Like a few times, just I'm like, I wonder if this holds up, and the music is still good. It's still,
the music
sometimes
is still so
when you need that like sense of like, okay, I need to chill, I need to relax my mind, a good preschool show is great to put on.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, I have a question for you, Jedi. To
Yeah.
close this out a bit, what preschool show would you want to live in?
Like the world I'd want to live in?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'd have to think about this. But if I had to say one right off the top of my head, do you remember the show Word World?
No.
Okay, so that show, okay, this one is it's a little loose in my memories, but the basic concept is that you can build things out of words. So say you needed a book, you would find a B, O, another O and a K, you would push them together and that would make a book. Like it would apparate. I'm trying to remember if the characters in it were animals or people. I'm leaning towards animals, but they were because there was a character named Frog. And if you saw him from the side, his body spelled out the word frog. I don't know why, but being able to build things with words seems like a really cool skill to have. I don't know anything else about that word aside from the fact that you could build things with words. But again, as someone who loved to read, it was mind blowing. And I guess in a similar vein, the electric company, they had superpowers based off of like literary things.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. So the Electric Company was a group of kids. This was a live action one that I think I watched when I was a little bit older. And so it was a live action about some kids in a community. They suddenly get these powers that are like literary powers. I don't remember what all the powers were, but one of them was like recall. So she could like put up a sound, like sound waves and replay a conversation.
Yeah. That was cool.
I think one of them, he could like throw sounds or words. Like, I don't know how to explain it really. But like he could take a word if he needed that thing, he could like take the word and throw it and it would appear. I think that's what his power was. If I'm explaining these wrong, I guess that's too bad. I have to look it back up. But the Electric Company, yeah, I think a lot of reading world seemed very interesting to me because it was a lot about like bringing words to life, which is basically what reading is.
Yeah.
Like reading is just you're imagining it and bringing it to life, but then having that in the real world. That's just such a cool concept to me. And let me turn it back on to you. If you had to live in one of those preschool/educational worlds, which one would you choose?
Honestly, I'm choosing between the lions because I love just the aspect of like a whole huge, beautiful library, just to piss that. But then also, I was a big fan of Super Wide because it was like, we have a problem. This reminds me of that one story. Oh my gosh, what book are we going to jump into today? And it was always my favorite thing, the little basis of Super Wide. It is about these like superhero kids, but they all come from like different like stories.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. So the little girl who we run around with like skates and stuff, she was from like Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, she was Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, and then there was one girl from Princess and the Pea.
Yes.
She's a princess, and I remember she's the one who like helped like spell out and stuff. Then, oh my gosh, what is
Jack and the Beanstalk?
Yes, Jack.
One of them was Jack.
Yes, Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, and then there's Pig from the Three Little Pigs. Yeah, so that was like a genuine like thing that they used to do. So that was like really cool, and that answer's there. I would definitely want to live in that world just because, again, jumping into books, doing all that, and going to that space. Sorry, one last thing was Stanley. I think we talked about this was when he jumped into the book. I just like jumping into books now that I'm thinking about it.
So what I'm learning from this is that we both are reading nerds, but Stanley, great show. Great choice.
Show. Just jumping into those books and learning everything about like what's like animals or just whatever problems that they have. Sometimes I just want to jump into a book and be like, how do I solve this problem? The files keep breaking. The model won't render. Let me jump into this book and figure it out.
Oh my God. I feel like, okay, do you think it would be cool to be able to like hop into a manual, or do you think it would be the most boring thing ever? Like it would somehow be worse being inside of a manual versus like reading it.
My imaginary creative field, like when you hop into a book, there is somebody who's like the bookkeeper, and he's like, come along with me and we'll break down this manual. It will be boring, but he's gonna have to do it in song, unfortunately, for me to pay attention.
I love this.
Yes,
actually,
yes.
you should pitch this. I want to see this.
I
feel like this is a concept that's been played with before, but having it have to be musical. you A with that one.
You know, like people, the kids have to learn me. I am the kid specifically. Like I must understand what's going on, and I don't. But if you perform it in song, you know that when people be like, explain it to me like I'm 5, explain it to me like we are on a theater production right now.
Yes.
That's the only way.
Explain it to me like I'm 5 and I can only understand through song.
Let it go. I'm sorry, Glee raised me. There's no other thing. I can't do anything
Glee raised
else.
you, the Backyardigans raised me.
Exactly.
Little Einsteins. Did we even mention Little Einsteins?
No, but that is a Little Einsteins. Like,
I feel like that show became a giant meme, but
yes.
they used to, I think their big thing was learning classical music. Yeah, and so they would explain things using classical music, which I think has been studied to like help with kids' early learning. Like they'd be doing research. They'd be putting their whole backs into this. They're like, we're gonna teach these kids.
It does. Yeah. Man. I think education, even with just the stuff that books are being taken out of schools and just like the way that the public, like the whole PBS of it all, it really needs to stop. Like the BS needs to stop and we need to protect PBS. There we go. There we go.
I think what we can still do at this point is even if they're not getting that federal funding, if you have the means, donate.
Yeah.
And volunteer in your community. You can volunteer at the library. You can set up community libraries. Like, make sure the kids in your life are reading.
Yeah.
Even if they don't like it, try to foster a love for reading. I think it really helps with just everything and being informed, being aware, being able to, make sense of this crazy world that we live in. But also, it makes us kinder, I feel, to learn about others, about ourselves, about the world we live in. Yeah.
Damn, this feels like a PBS special.
Oh my God, PBS, if you want to hire us.
If you want to sponsor us, oh my gosh.
If you have any shows like
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very activated.
But yes, thank you so much. I think that's wrapping our episode. Thank you all so much for listening and remembering with us. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Produced by Nostalgia. Follow us on all social media platforms by Produced by Nostalgia Pod for episode updates, additional content, and more. You're going to just be seeing us get behind the scenes take of like how we did our process and more stuff. And please, 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 if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to, please message us, reply on this podcast. And yes, we would love to listen. Thank you so much. I have been your host, MK and
Jedi.